Okay, class, welcome to chapter 23 micro lecture where we're going to solve some homework problems. And for this lecture, we're actually going to do three problems because they're relatively short. So we're going to do three of them. I'm going to share my screen because I've done some videos before where I've gone from the beginning to the end and I've done all these demonstrations on Excel, and then I realized I didn't share my screen. So you just saw me talking and you weren't able to follow along. Um, so let's go to the questions. Question one. It says, and we're doing make or buy decisions. It says, Gelp company currently makes a key part for its main product. Making this part incurs per unit variable cost of $1.20 for direct materials and 75 cents for direct labor. Incremental overhead to make this part is $1.40 per unit. The company can buy the part for $3.50 per unit. Prepare a make or buy analysis of costs for this part. Note, enter your answers rounded to two decimal places. That was part A. And then part B is should Gelb make or buy the part? So here's what we're gonna do. Um, Part A, I'm trying to set it up like how it's on the question so it's easy for you. Just make or buy analysis. And then we have make and buy. All right, so we have those components. So let's figure out how much would it cost to make this component. All right, so we're going to look at the make first. The question tells us that to make this, we have direct materials, and those direct materials, the question told us, are $1.20. I'm going to make these dollars. It told us that there are direct labor costs. And this is obviously to make it. To buy it, you're not going to incur any materials, labor, etc. Those were incurred by the company that actually made the part. So it says that the direct labor is 75 cents per unit. And it tells us that our overhead is $1.40 per unit. I'm going to put here the cost to buy. It tells us that the cost to buy it, if we were to buy it, is $3.50. And if we add up these numbers, we have the cost per unit to make it. I'm going to put here cost per unit. If we were to make it, and we're going to add these three numbers together, and we get $3.35. So if we look at the cost difference, all right, so we subtract these two numbers and we see that immediately we can see if we buy it, it costs $3.50. If we make it, it costs $3.35. All right. So what do you think we should do? Um, Part B, the company should, in this case, make the product. Okay, because it's cheaper to make it. Um, let's go to question two now, since we've decided on this one. So question two says, Kobe Company has manufactured 200 partially finished cabinets at a cost of $50,000. These can be sold as is for $60,000. Instead, the cabinets can be stained and fitted with hardware to make finished cabinets. Further processing costs would be $12,000, and the finished cabinets could be sold for $80,000. Prepare a sell as is or process further analysis of income effects. And then B, should the cabinets be sold as is or processed further and then sold? So for question two, we're doing part A, sell or process analysis. I'm gonna make this just a little bit bigger, right? And then so in our first column, we're gonna look at sell as is versus process further. So those are our two decisions that we need to make. Just doing a little formatting here. So if we go back to the question, it says that we want to do an income effects analysis, all right? So as we know, to come up with income, we usually consider our revenues, our costs, and that gives us our income. If we wanted to sell as is, it tells us that these can be sold for 60,000. Let me just do my dollar signs. So if I sell as is, it can be sold for $60,000. Um, if I sell as is, I won't have any costs. All right, because I'm just selling it as it is. I've already incurred costs. So my income would be $60,000 if I sell as is. If I process further, so I do the staining and I add the hardware, it tells me that I can sell them for $80,000 if I process it further. But in order to process it further, I'll incur some costs, and that cost is going to be $12,000. So my income is going to be $68,000. All right. And so I see that the incremental income or loss to process further, all right, I see that if I subtract these two numbers, the 68 and the 60, I get 8,000. Um, so B asks us, what should the company do? So if we look at it, if they process it further, they'll make $68,000. If they sell as is, they'll make $60,000. So what should they do? They should process further because they would make more money by processing further. And that's how you do question two. Let's go to the last one, which is question three. It says that Varto Company has 7,000 units of its product in inventory that it produced last year at a cost of $154,000. This year's model is better than last year's, and the 7,000 units cannot be sold at last year's normal selling price of $35 each. Varto has two alternatives for these units. They can be sold as is to a wholesaler for $56,000, or they can be processed further at an additional cost of $125,000 and then sold for $175,000. Then it says prepare a sell as is or process further analysis of income effects. And two, should Barto sell the products as is or process further and then sell them? So we're doing the same thing for part three as we did in part two. We want to do a sell or process analysis. So I'm just going to put this here. And then again, we're going to consider to get income, we usually use revenues, costs, and that gives us our income. And then we want to do our incremental, I'm just going to copy paste this, our incremental income or loss to process further. And then B is what should the company do? Let's go to the information. So to sell as is, it tells us that they can be sold as is to a wholesale provider for $56,000. So I'm going to put $56,000 here under sell as is. If I sell as is, I'm not going to incur any additional costs. So my cost is zero. My income would be 56,000. Now, if I process further, the question tells me that they can be sold for 175,000 if I process further, and the cost of processing it further would be 125,000. All right. So I subtract these two numbers, and that gives me $50,000. So when I subtract these two numbers, you can show it as a positive number. But if I subtract those two numbers, I get that there's a $6,000 difference. If we look at these two numbers, we see if I sell it as is, I get 56. If I process further, I get 50. Which do I get the most money out of? selling as is. So what should this company do? It should sell as is. And that's how you do those three questions. I'm gonna stop sharing so you can see me really quick. If you have any questions about any of this or any of the other homework or any of the concepts in this chapter or throughout the course, please, as always, the invitation's there for you to reach out to me. Happy to send you one of these videos or happy to meet with you one-on-one in a live session to explain the concepts. Thank you.